Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Tailgate Committee, your new favorite college football show. Catch us live on YouTube every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern time. My name is Andy Hopper. I'm joined by Tom Scavetta and Noah, the old boy Dibler. This is week 12 of the Tailgate Committee. Week 12 of college football is here, and we have a fun show planned for you guys tonight, today, whenever you're watching this. But we are going to go with a little recap of last week. We've got an updated Heisman race, a lot of quarterbacks at the top there that we are going to discuss. I bet I can guess who Noah is going to cape for. I won't tease that too much. We have some Brian Kelly drama at LSU. Apparently, he was never formally fired, and they don't want to pay him his buyout. So we're going to get into all of that. We've got our six-pack, our games of the week you should be watching, and then our lock of the week, which we don't just whatever team I pick is going to lose. So it doesn't matter. Another loser last week, Indiana minus 14.5, and it takes them the fucking craziest catch I've ever seen in my life to escape Penn State. But they do it. So week 12 of the Tailgate Committee is here. Let's go to our Week 11 recap. We are going to start with Tulane and Memphis, a big game in the G5. And Tigers fans, look away. You were not feeling good after this one. Tom, we'll start with you here. Retzlaff balled out, and Tulane gets the win. What were your thoughts on this one in the American Athletic Conference?
Well, this is exactly why Tulane went out and got Jake Retzlaff in the transfer portal. You look at his numbers this game, 332 passing on 3 touchdowns and 10 rushes for 43 yards and 1 touchdown. It was a good complimentary football game. The defensive play complemented what the offense produced. The Green Wave had 6 sacks of Brandon Lewis, who is not an easy quarterback to bring down. So give Tulane a lot of credit. And to be honest with you, it was a bad week to be a Tiger. They could not run the football well enough. Bad weekend for the Tigers across the country. But looking at the American standings now, it is packing up to be a wild finish. You got Navy at 5-1, who's played one more conference game than the next 4 teams I'm about to mention. USF at 4-1, Tulane at 4-1, North Texas at 4-1, East Carolina at 4-1. Damn, that's all I've got to say. That is going to be a wild finish. We might have to put an American game on the card every single week at this rate moving forward. It is a awesome conference. The G5 winner in the CFP will be from this conference.
A gauntlet for sure coming down the stretch of the season. Noah, I'll take one from you here. I hope the Tigers defense had a bus pass this weekend, because Tulane came in there and smacked them around.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I got to say this. Big apology to all the Memphis fans out there, because last week we had that segment where we were talking about who we thought was overrated and underrated in the CFP rankings. I said Memphis wasn't even ranked. Look how underrated they are. What happens? They immediately lose. Gotta love it. But, a couple of reasons I think Tulane won this game, guys. Obviously, Retzlaff, Tom went into him. But I think a big one that might go under the radar, because if you just look at the stats, they gave 435 yards, but Tulane defense made some big plays in this one, guys. They totally shut down the Memphis rushing attack. They only averaged 2.3 yards per carry, and if you look at the stats, they also had 6 total sacks and 10 TFLs, so definitely making Brendan Lewis uncomfortable back there. Even though I wouldn't say Brendan Lewis had a bad game, I mean, he still went 29-34, but they were able to force an interception as well. Retzlaff was terrific. And unlike Memphis, Tulane was not one-dimensional. Javen Gordon, their starting running back, averaged 5.5 yards per carry, had a touchdown. Retzlaff had a touchdown as well. And I got to say, guys, at the top of this Memphis, top of this conference is just wild. Tom kind of just went into it. But you got, 4 4-1 teams. You have Navy at 5-1, and Memphis, they're still not out of it. Their last 2 games, actually, guys, at East Carolina and versus Navy, who are both, in contention for this conference. So you got basically a 6-way fight for winning this conference. Like Tom said, probably get a CFP spot at this rate. What a competitive conference. I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. But for Memphis, Tulane is a good team. I mean, they're 4-1 in the conference for a reason, 7-2 and overall for a reason. Have a very good coach as well. I know we've talked about that a few times throughout the season. But yeah, big credit to Tulane, especially on the road as well. This was a big time win for their CFP chances, guys.
Absolutely, Tulane keeping their hopes alive after a couple, missteps earlier this year, and a gut punch for Memphis riding high after taking out USF. We'll go to the Big 12 and another beatdown, 29-7. The Texas Tech Red Raiders take care of business against BYU. It was never really close, Tom, and it could have been even worse. There's a couple times that Texas Tech settled for some field goals instead of getting 7 when it really looked like they were about to find their way into the end zone. You've been hyping up Texas Tech all year, the offense and the defense as well. You've called it not your typical Big 12 D, and they proved it, not allowing a score until the fourth quarter and getting the win at home.
And they're the identity of this team, right? They have the nation's sack leader in David Bailey, 11 and a half sacks on the season. He showed up again, but more importantly, they held BYU to just 67 yards on the ground. So their identity is stop the run and pressure the quarterback, get them in second and long, third and long. And that's what they made Bear Bachmeier do, right? In my opinion, Bear Bachmeier is a complement to LJ Martin. LJ Martin is the identity of that offense. It's not Bear Bachmeier. All due respect to him. He's a first-year starter. He'll get better as time goes along, but that's what it is right now. I told you guys at the beginning of the season that Texas Tech was the dark horse to win the Big 12, that I believe that I was picking them to the Big 12 to win the Big 12 outright. It's happening now. I mean, there is no way. I mean, maybe Cincinnati. I don't know. I mean, we'll see who ends up with them in there. It could be a rematch with BYU, but they also have, on top of Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez. They're arguing, trying to throw him in the back end of that Heisman conversation, get him in like a little back door there. 7 forced fumbles for a linebacker is outstanding. He was all over the place in this game with 14 stops. And then Cam Dickey on the ground. He showed out again. They controlled the tempo. It was an ugly win. Yeah, a lot of field goals were kicked. I think the one concern about this team is the offense's ability to finish inside the red zone. And they have some drop problems. Coy Eakin has a couple key drops in this game. If you take those away, they probably win by more. So we all picked BYU to cover last week, I believe, including myself. I mean, I thought Texas Tech would win. I was not expecting this.
Yeah, I agree. I did not see this game being kind of a laugher. Noah, what was your take on the big win for the Red Raiders and what this means for the Big 12?
Same kind of thing Tom said. I did pick Texas Tech to win this game. I did not think it would be a blowout. Hey, right. I think this was a classic strength versus strength matchup, guys. I think I mentioned last week. BYU's offense centers around running that football. This isn't a team you expect Bear Bachmeier to be able to throw it 38 times like they did in this game and have success, right? They run through LJ Martin, as Tom mentioned, and obviously Bear on the ground as well. But LJ Martin in this game, only 3.5 yards per carry. Bear did nothing, 11 carries for 12 yards. And no disrespect to this BYU team. Parker Kingston is awesome. Chase Roberts had a touchdown in this game. But if this offense has to pass away back into a game with Bear Bachmeier, it's just not going to go their way, right? Especially against a Texas Tech defense that is as elite as this unit is. Cameron Dickey was actually the star running back in this game, in my opinion, with 121 yards and a touchdown. And I got to say this, Texas Tech, man, they're sitting pretty because if you look at their last two matchup, guys, versus UCF and at West Virginia, two teams in the bottom 4 of the Big 12. They got that tiebreaker over BYU now. Only one I think could maybe compete is Cincy. But they have a massive game as well this week, guys, against this very BYU team. And then they close against TCU is pretty solid. So, but I definitely think advantage Texas Tech, man. This was their biggest game of the season by far. And they didn't just go out there and win. Like you guys said, they went out and dominated, which is going to be a big boost to their seeding as well. But, just a clockwork performance, in my opinion, from the good old Red Raiders.
The standard is the standard, and the standard was the standard on Saturday for Texas Tech. Show up and ball out, took care of business. Let's go to Penn State and Indiana. I thought Penn State was going to do it there late in the fourth quarter. I said, wow, James Franklin really is the problem and what was preventing them from beating top 5 teams. But my hat goes off to Fernando Mendoza and that offense, and Cooper for that catch. Absolute insanity. They steal a win to go to 10-0. You can say what you want about the performance. I guess the slow start. They really didn't look great offensively for most of this game. Penn State was able to run the ball pretty well against a very good Hoosier defense, but it's what good teams do. They find ways to win. They're now 10-0, 7-0 in the Big Ten, 27-24 victory over the Nittany Lions. Noah, we'll start with you on this one. Did you think that was a catch live? Because at first I thought there's no way. I thought he was out of bounds.
I did as well, but then you see the replay and you see how he got it in, and got to be catch of the year, right? Not just how amazing the catch was, right, but the importance of that catch. I mean, especially, and I want to say this, by the way. Now, I've been seeing a lot from people all over the internet talking about how this game proves that this Indiana team is fraudulent. Like I said, I completely disagree with that, guys. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Penn State has been terrible this season. But you're still going on the road to Happy Valley, 100,000 plus screaming fans, right? And so many arguments I heard for why this was shows the fraudulent. Oh, they had a backup quarterback, as if their starting quarterback was doing any good at all this season. Oh, they fired their coach, as if their coach wasn't the main reason the team was bad. This was probably one of the best games Penn State played all year. In my opinion, they really should have won this game, kind of let it slip away. But like you said, Andy, a sign of a good team isn't the team that can go out and win when they execute everything perfectly, right? A good team is a team that can win when they have an off day. And that's what Indiana had. They had an off day on the road against Penn State, but they got it done in the fourth quarter when it mattered most. Fernando Mendoza got it done. Charlie Becker had a great game, but that catch by Omar Cooper, man, like I said, I think it was catch of the year. It's unfortunate for Penn State because, like I said, I think they played a very good game. I don't think they should be ashamed by any means doing this against the number 2 team, but this is the problem. They can't finish, games, man. The program is just in turmoil right now. But it's kind of one of those. What was that quote from Mike Tomlin from years ago? I'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day of the week. I think that's what Indiana fans are feeling right now. You survive and you move on. And the last 2 games of the season, guys. Wisconsin at Purdue, much more manageable, in my opinion, than a game like this for them.
12-0 Indiana Hoosiers is a real possibility. I mean, God, Cignetti, the job he's done in 2 years at, literally the losingest program in college football history is no short of remarkable. Tom, your thoughts on the other football team in Indiana and their performance last Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I still think they're a great team, but proving why they're the bridesmaids when it comes to the state of Indiana football. They are not the best football team in the state of Indiana. In my opinion, there's 5 or 6 teams that could win a national championship this year. Indiana is not one of them. The reason being, they only ran for 108 yards in this game. And Fernando Mendoza, while he continues to make Heisman-like plays, they have not yet been able to prove that they can win CFP games. If they continue to play like this, they will get whacked in the Big Ten championship game. I was not impressed with this performance at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, going through the majority of that game, I'm like, what is going on? Especially somebody that had Indiana minus 14.5 as their lock. They go up into halftime. I think they were up 10, had an opportunity to drive down the field and go up by even more, turn the ball over, I believe. And I'll credit Gunkmeyer. I thought he was pretty decent in this game, for that situation. And Penn State fans just getting their hearts absolutely ripped out in a big game once again. Let's stay in the Big Ten, another big game, and this one is a final score you're not going to see a lot. 18-16 final. The Oregon Ducks take the victory in Iowa City on a game-winning field goal with 7 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. It was wet. It was rainy. It was sloppy. The score at the end of the first quarter, Oregon 2, Iowa 0. Exactly what I want to see from the first quarter of a football game in Iowa. Noah, I want to start with you on this one again. Iowa, they're now at 6-3. I believe they're number 23 in the college football playoff. But kind of like you were talking about Happy Valley, Kinnick is a tough place to play. They pack it out. They're loud, and they love the Hawkeyes there. Your thoughts on Dan Lanning's crew going in and getting a win here? I think this was very much an ugly win for Oregon, like we were talking about with the Hoosiers.
Yeah, it is an ugly win. I would agree with that. But at the end of the day, it's still a win. I think that's what's most important. Now, I will say I didn't expect this game to be as close as it was. I thought Oregon would win by a little bit more. But at the same time, I also can't say I'm necessarily surprised because, I mean, Iowa guys has had these elite defenses for as long as I can remember. And unfortunately for Iowa fans, it's the same old story, guys. They just did not have offense in this game. Couldn't get the running game going. They tried. They ran it 43 total times, but only managed 101 yards. Gronowski, no disrespect to him. I'm sure he's a great guy, right? But 138 passing yards. You're going to need more to beat a team like Oregon, in my opinion. And I think the main thing I was surprised about in this one, guys, is, it wasn't Dante Moore that really was the star of this game. In my opinion, was the whole Oregon running back room, because they had over 261 yards, 261 yards rushing, including 46 from Dante Moore. They had a touchdown from De'Aaron Hill Jr. as well. Noah Whittington with over 100 yards. I think, guys, it's just one of those classic ugly Big Ten defensive games, ground and pound, low scoring. Oregon got a safety in the first quarter that, was what kicked off. And by the way, can I just say, that safety was one of the biggest cluster what plays I have ever seen. Terrible snap. Poor punter has to run back and basically kick it out of the end zone, or else it would have been a touchdown. Yeah, man, ugly, but like you said, Andy, it's an ugly win, but it's a win nonetheless. Now, for the rest of the season, I'm looking at the end of their schedule. Oregon has some difficult games. I'm not going to say they have 6-3 Minnesota. They didn't have 7-2 USC, number 17, and they closed the season at Washington, who is 6-3. So if they play like this again, guys, against teams like that we know, at least the last two, I'm not as familiar with the Minnesota offense, but definitely USC and Washington, you're not going to be able to have the offensive struggles that Oregon had for large parts of this game, right, against teams like that, and be able to confidently expect you can pull out a win. So hopefully for Dan Lanning and his crew, this was just an off game, just, a solid performance by Iowa defense. But we'll see. But at the end of the day, they got the win, which is all that matters.
Right. I am totally with you on that one. They go in, they get the win. It was pouring rain the whole time. Maybe that, factors into some of the struggles offensively, but, Whittington, 17 carries and like 111 yards or something like that. So he had a great day on the ground, led that running back room. Tom, your thoughts on this one, keeping the Ducks' hopes alive in Iowa City?
Yeah. This was a weather game. The weather was not good, but they did run for 261 yards. That's why they won the game. They controlled the tempo. The Iowa defense was good against the pass. Dante Moore wasn't able to do too much. I think they did a good job in that category. But, yeah, they couldn't stop Noah Whittington. Also, Jordan Davison was really, really good. And I want to give the Ducks defense some credit, too. They held Iowa to 16 points. Not a team that breaks the bank scoring every week, but they did force 2 Iowa turnovers. Well, usually this season, Iowa has been pretty good at not turning the ball over. In this game, that was not the case. So if Iowa, wants to get back on track, they have to take better care of the football. And for Oregon, I think they've re-entered the race to potentially, make a Big Ten title appearance. I think, they lost to Indiana, but, I think the Ducks have a shot. We'll see what happens in these final 2-3 weeks here, and hopefully Oregon can, put out a more complete performance next week.
Yeah, Oregon's going to need somebody to fall up there, Indiana or Ohio State. But they are, control what you can control. You win out and give yourself a chance. If not the Big Ten title game, the college football playoff will be there. One more game from last week that we'll get in just really quickly. Number 3, Texas A&M 38, Missouri 17. Marcel Reed 20 for 29, 2 touchdowns, 221 yards. Owens the second had a big day on the ground. 2 touchdowns on 13 carries, and he goes for 102 there. Big win for the Aggies, Tom. Mike Elko's squad looks just as strong as anybody in the country right now.
Yeah, and it's because of 2 guys in particular, Marcel Reed and Reuben Owens, who had 2 scores, 100 yards in this game. The Aggies ran for 243 yards and 3 touchdowns. Their defense, they shut out Mizzou in the first half. For the game itself, they outgained them 464 to 284. Marcel Reed continues to rise his stock in the Heisman race. I definitely think he is top 5, in my opinion. I know he's not talked about a lot by the alleged experts out there, but he deserves more recognition than he's getting. I'm really impressed with A&M. They continue to play well every week. Rarely will you see them have a slip up where they almost lose, right? They're one of the more complete teams in the nation.
Absolutely. And pretty early into Mike Elko's tenure at Texas A&M as well. Really impressive what they've been able to do. They've got that oil money behind them. They can recruit. It's just their past few coaches have not been able to, put all that talent together into victories. So Noah, as an SEC guy, Texas A&M undefeated at the top of the conference, in the driver's seat, but I would say your Bulldogs are right behind them.
Yeah, I would say that as well. I mean, obviously you have to throw in Alabama as well because they're ranked above Georgia too, have the tiebreaker. And they have a big. All these teams have massive games left in the season. I'm Texas A&M closes with Texas. We play Texas this week. Bama has Oklahoma, so there's a lot left to be decided in that SEC race. But for this game specifically, guys, I think it was just kind of A&M. Went out, took care of business, did what they had to do because. No disrespect, this Missouri team. I've hyped them up a lot this season, but in this game, they were missing the starting quarterback, and poor Matt Zollers, man, you could tell he was not ready. He was not ready for a stage like this. 7 of 22, 77 yards, but obviously you got to give credit to this A&M defense as well. They were able to shut down that passing game completely. Missouri really only got anything going through the ground with Roberts and Hardy. They both had over 100 yards on the ground and touchdowns, so credit to them, but Marcel Reed in this offense have been workmanship amazing all season, guys. He was clinical once again in this one. 2 touchdowns through the air, completing over 66% of his passes. Owens, like Tom said, averaging almost 8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. He did a great job too. And Concepcion, averaging 21 yards per carry in this game as well. Just, like I said, it's hard to read too much in this because Missouri, was clearly depleted, right? So I think it's a good sign for A&M. They went out, they did what they had to do. Hopefully they shouldn't look ahead in the next 2 games. I hope they have South Carolina and Samford. So, and then obviously, like I said, Texas to close the season. But solid result for them. Top of the SEC still ahead of Alabama and Georgia. A lot of ball to be played, though, guys. I mean, this SEC race could flip on its head in an instant with how it is right now.
Yeah, we've got some really, really fun conference championship battles that are going down to the wire this year. So that's our Week 11 recap. Some very, very good games last week. Let's get into a topic we haven't talked about, I think, since maybe like the week 1 of the show. Let's talk about this Heisman race and some Heisman favorites. And there's 5 quarterbacks at the top, fellas. Julian Sayin, Ty Simpson, Marcel Reed, Fernando Mendoza, and Gunnar Stockton. Tom, I want to start with you here because I think we know where the old boy is going, and I kind of want to just let him cook. So, of these five, who are you taking as the Heisman Trophy winner to this point?
Yeah, well, so for me in particular, I think you have to rule out Mendoza. I know I was a little bit hard on Indiana in our last segment, and I still think they're an excellent football team, but he's thrown a pick in 3 straight games. Other than the game against Illinois, he has had some internal errors in these games. So I personally, if it was me, I would rule him out. Marcel Reed is undefeated as a starter this year, 3-0 against ranked opponents. That's one guy I have in my top 3, along with Simpson and Sayan. I love Gunnar Stockton, but I'm going to leave him out of this here. I think he is a very close fourth. In fact, I'd have him above Mendoza. Ultimately, oh man, I think I'm going to go with Sayan. Say what you want. First year starter, true sophomore. Okay. He has an 81% completion percentage, guys. And it's not these dink and dunk routes where he just gets the ball to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Sure. To future first round draft picks. Okay. But he's throwing the ball down the field to these guys. 24 touchdowns to 4 picks. They are 9-0 for a reason, right? He's better than Will Howard already. In my personal opinion, they were not undefeated at this time last year with Will Howard. So 3 games with 4 touchdown passes, 6 300-yard passing games. And let's be real, their running game is still good, but it's not as good as it was last year. And as much as I might not like Ryan Day, he knows what he's doing as far as his quarterback play right now. It is awesome. I give Chip Kelly a lot of credit. For me, Julian Sayin edges out Ty Simpson and Marcel Reed as your 2025 Heisman front runner in Week 12.
All right. Noah, we mentioned 5 guys, and I think there's one that you might like a lot better than the other 4. So go ahead, give me your case for the Heisman Trophy.
Well, obviously, my favorite quarterback of these 5 is good old Gunnar Stockton. I think he's had a very underrated season, guys, especially when you look at the statistics. I mean, Tom just mentioned a good bit talking about Ty Simpson. But if we actually look at total touchdowns, guys, Ty Simpson has 23 total TDs this year. Gunnar Stockton has 22 because remember, he has that mobility factor. He has 7 through the ground. He's completing 69.44% of his passes. That's higher than a guy like Ty Simpson, actually, and way higher than Marcel Reed. It's a little below Mendoza, and obviously Sayin is just absolutely killing in that regard. So I will say this. Do I think he's going to win the Heisman Trophy? No. Will he even get an invite to New York? That's also debatable. But I want to give him a shout out as well, guys, because for a guy that got so much crap in the offseason from idiots like Paul Feinbaum, oh, he's the 13th best quarterback in the SEC. You know what I saw this week? I saw good old Paul Feinbaum himself had to come out with a statement because poor Gunnar has been just humiliating him week after week with his solid play, saying, you know what? I have to hold my hands up. I was wrong. I was an idiot. Gunnar Stockton is actually very good. So I did want to give him a shout out for that one. But as to who I actually think will win the Heisman Trophy, I'm going to throw out Mendoza. I think Mendoza's had a great season. Same with Reed. I think he's had a very good season as well. He also has some good Heisman moments. But I think the top 2 is between the guys Tom was discussing, which is Ty Simpson and Julian Sayin. And I hate to make it boring to where we all agree, but I'm with Tom on this one. I think Julian Sayin is the favorite as well. I think it's if you just look at the ratios, right, it's very close between those 2. But the reason I go for Sayin is like Tom said, 80.9% completion percentage. I mean, guys, this is video game numbers. This is ridiculous. And I know what people say, right? Oh, he has, the most talented team in the country, best team in the country, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to be, with very rare exceptions, you're not going to be a Heisman candidate or winner if you're on a crap team. A guy like Lamar Jackson was an exception, not the rule, right? So I don't really see that as a valid criticism. I mean, you're completing 81% of your passes, man. I mean, get in line. Like, that is just nuts. So even though I absolutely hate Ohio State's guts, it's got to be Julian Sayin for sure.
Julian Sayin is the consensus for my co-hosts here. We'll look at the odds. Julian Sayin is the betting favorite at plus 150. Fernando Mendoza plus 190. Ty Simpson plus 400. Marcel Reed plus 700. Diego Pavia is plus 2,000, as well as Jeremiah Smith at plus 2,000. Jeremiah Love plus 2,500, and Gunnar Stockton plus 3,000. Everyone else is plus 10,000 or more. So you'd like to think that that group is really the group that's going to have the best chance of finding themselves in New York for the Heisman finalist trophy. Of Jeremiah Smith or Jeremiah Love, if you weren't going to give it to a quarterback, which one of those two would you give it to?
Oh man, I'd probably go with Smith just because I think with Notre Dame that I think there's been times this season. I know Thomas mentioned where it actually looked like Price was their number one running back, and actually lately it kind of feels like Love has really started going off. They have a nice 1-2 punch there, but I mean Jeremiah Smith, guys, is the best wide receiver in college football. I think that's a pretty safe pick in my opinion.
Absolutely, Tom. I'm sure you will. Would you agree with the old boy here, or do you think Jeremiah Love has a good case?
It's tough. I think Love is my dark horse here. Obviously, there is some fan bias in there, but from a logistical standpoint, I look at this as you have a freshman quarterback in CJ Carr, who has looked great, by the way. Jeremiah Love is the identity of this offense, and I think he has made Jadarian Price better, right? And Love was dealing with an injury earlier in the season. He's got the swag to him. Yeah, there's some antics that I could do without, but it's his value as not just a runner. He has it all. He can block, and he makes catches as well. He's a good receiving back. He is a good runner. Obviously, you guys know my football DNA. More often than not, I will pick the running back over the receiver as far as who my favorite is. But the reason why Notre Dame is as high as they are is because of Jeremiah Love. That, and I can't give two of Ryan Day's players the sake of my.
Yeah, you've already given one Ohio State player enough credit. You couldn't possibly be asked to do that again within 5 minutes. Give me Ty Simpson. I'll take Ty Simpson plus 400 for my pick, just to be different. And then, yeah, I would also. I really think Noah made a good point. Like, if you didn't have Jerry and Price, and you didn't really have that second option that was so good, maybe Love is getting more talk. But I think those are the best two skill players in the country right now at running back and receiver. So. Some interesting talk there. Something to be watching down the season as the season goes on. I don't know what the fuck down the season means. So let's go to our second segment, and we got to talk about this because it has been all over the Brian Kelly drama at LSU. We discussed his firing a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. LSU, they're still in a standoff with the former football coach over the terms of his buyout. Kelly's contract, a 10-year, $95 million deal, calls for him to be paid 90% of his remaining salary for the life of his contract, which would put LSU on the hook for close to $54 million in the form of monthly payments to Kelly through 2031. LSU wanted to negotiate a smaller payment to Kelly that would give the coach a significant payout up front, would save the program money in the long run. Kelly would benefit from getting the money in one lump sum, and LSU would remove mitigation language for future earnings from coaching. However, negotiations have not yet yielded a new agreement. According to documents obtained by the Baton Rouge Advocate, Kelly's lawyer sent a letter to new athletic director Verge Osbury on November 5th, indicating his expectation that the school will pay his full liquidated damages, meaning the full $54 million buyout. Kelly showed a willingness to engage in such conversations immediately after his firing, but rejected offers of $25 million and $30 million that were presented to him. first by then athletic director Scott Woodward, who signed him to the contract, by the way, and later by executive deputy athletic director Julie Cromer. Since Woodward's firing after a fiery press conference from the governor, Jeff Landry, which we talked about, these talks have stalled. So in a letter, Kelly's attorneys state he's open to any additional offers, but he's pushing for a resolution by 5 p.m. on November 10th. So 2 days ago, and I don't know if we have gotten a resolution, but let's just open this up. So this is I'm reading this article from CBS Sports by Robbie Calland. So shout out to old Rob. Tom, I want to start with you on this one because he's your former coach. You say what you want about Brian Kelly. We've said a lot about Brian Kelly, whether it's just not being a good guy and all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is LSU signed him to a contract. You got to honor the contract. As much as it sucks, $54 million is a lot of freaking money. But you can't just say, oh, never mind. Like LSU now claiming he was never formally fired. And if they can find that he's fired with cause, they don't have to pay him. This is just a big, big mess for one of the premier programs in the country. So I just want to get your thoughts on this whole situation and the drama surrounding this buyout.
Can we all agree that his exit at LSU is officially uglier than his exit at Notre Dame? Obviously, he left both programs for very different reasons. I'm going to say this outright, and I don't care how this makes me look. Notre Dame would have never done this to him. They would have never done this to him. LSU should be ashamed of themselves. That AD should never get a job again in college sports. But people are, they're saying why the governor, this is a state-funded school. So when something like this happens, the government will get involved. That's why the governor is involved in this case. We can't really harp too much on that. I'm with Brian Kelly here. Look, I get it from LSU's point of view. They want to make Kelly make a smaller buyout, right? Take a smaller buyout. But you signed him to a 10-year, $95 million deal. And the contract said 90% of his remaining salary will be paid out for the life of this contract. And what that means is not only is LSU on the hook for $54 million, it has to be in the form of monthly payments to Kelly through 2031. I'm hearing the school wants to give him a lot of it up front, right? They've offered him buyout numbers of $25 million, $31 million, but he rejected, as he should. If I'm Brian Kelly, I am suing the hell out of this. Fuck you, pay me.
Absolutely. An interesting note here. The LSU board of directors is now alleging that Scott Woodward did not have the authority to fire Brian Kelly. So his very public firing now apparently just didn't happen. He wasn't actually terminated in the eyes of the LSU board of directors. Just a big mess. Noah, your thoughts on this whole fiasco, this clusterfuck?
I know that we and a lot of other people have said a lot of stuff about Brian Kelly's coaching adamant, how he's, out of touch. He's not, the right kind of guy to deal with this new generation of players. But I got to say this, guys, I am 1000% on Brian Kelly's side on this one for a few reasons. Number one, now, I said this earlier in the season when I saw something Kirby Smart said about everyone losing Alabama. I thought it was one of the dumbest statements I'd ever seen in my life. I got to give LSU credit, guys. I think they managed to say something even stupider with this whole, oh, we didn't actually fire him. Scott Woodward did not have the authority to terminate. Now, I don't even know how to start with this. So I don't know what bizarro land world we live in, guys, where an athletic director has no authority to fire the head coach of the most important athletic program at the university. That's number one. Number two, how are you going to say Brian Kelly was not officially fired when Frank Wilson has been coaching the team the last 2 weeks? If Brian Kelly is not fired, why isn't he on the sidelines right now, guys? Well, where is he? Is he just invisible? Did he gain superpowers or something? He can coach at home or something like that. Zoom like we're back in COVID days? Is that what he's doing? This is the biggest load of BS I have ever heard in my life. And you know what it is, guys? They don't want to pay him the $54 million that he deserves, that they agreed to pay him contractually, by the way. It's not something you can just be like, oh, yeah, it's contractual obligation that they have to do this, right? They don't want to do it. So what they're doing is they're trying to make up some of the most ridiculous arguments that they possibly can. I can be honest, guys. When I heard about this, I was thinking, maybe they found out about some big controversy that he had right behind the scenes that they could eat. No, it's literally just we never fired him. We never fired him. The guy that we never fired him, but the guy that hypothetically did fire him didn't have the authority to do so. Like, well, do you think people that you're speaking to are like 2 years old or something? What is
Right.
Like, this is the stupidest thing. Brian Kelly should sue the pants off of this. This program has fallen so far, guys. By the way, this is just an absolute joke. But Brian Kelly, I'm with you on this one, man. You need to sue these guys for all this work. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. LSU, I mean, it's just like it goes from bad to worse, and I feel bad for these loyal LSU fans, man. They're trying their heart out. They love this team to death. You go out, you watch your team get steamrolled by Alabama. It's not even close, and then you got to deal with your, whoever the hell in the public advertising or whatever put out this horrible statement. Makes you look even worse. You got the governor involved. I mean, the whole state. It's a total disaster. But Brian Kelly, best wishes to you, man. Keep enjoying that money while you're fired. And whoever put out this statement, please, I'm begging you guys, consider different employment, because that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life.
Oh yeah,
Bro.
Here's the quote. Coach Kelly's representatives informed LSU that Coach Kelly disagreed with each of LSU's new positions, including the idea that he somehow had not been terminated, that then athletics director Woodward was not an acting with authority in a meeting attended by several LSU athletics officials, including current athletics director Osbury, and 3, that there were any grounds for terminations with cause, or that LSU could manufacture any such grounds after his termination, thus necessitating this action. So they are basically trying to move every goalpost that they can to try to make it look like they didn't do anything. He was fired with cause, and I get it. You don't want to pay $54 million. And Tom, you brought up a great point. It's a state-run institution. I mean, this could be fucking taxpayer money that they're talking about. So, but you just can't. And Noah, you made a great point too. Where you're talking to people, you think they're 2 years old and they've never, been a person before. Like, it's just unbelievable stuff in Baton Rouge. We'll see. We'll follow that. See how that plays out. But pay the man his money. You signed him to the contract. It can't just be, oh, never mind. Now that you fired him. So, yikes, big yikes on that athletic program currently. So let's go to our 6-pack for week 12, and we're going to start with a big one for Tommy. Number 9, Notre Dame at number 22, Pittsburgh, 12 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Interesting comments, Tom, from Narduzzi before this game, basically saying he does not care how this game goes. He doesn't care if they get beat 110-10 because they still have 2 ACC games after that matter more. Are you buying that talk from Narduzzi?
It's duly noted. Look, I don't know why he said that. I don't think he meant it like that, but that's how it came out. It was just a very poorly worded statement. Basically, we've blown them out the last couple of times that we've played them. So I think that's why he's saying that. A loser mentality, loser attitude brings losing results. I don't think that's a good statement to make ahead of the week when your team is playing arguably their biggest resume builder game of the season. I don't care if it's a non-conference opponent. You want to make the college football playoff? You want to win the ACC? This is a must-win game for you guys. I don't view this as a game that they could just walk over and be like, oh, yeah. I mean, even if they do get in with 3 losses and win the ACC, they'll be the 12th seed, and they'll be an easy first round out. They'll get walked all over by that 5 seed. Panthers are 0-4 against the Irish since 2015. They've been outscored 103-10 by them in their last 2 meetings, 103-10. So that is where the quote came from. That's the reference he was making. Basically, we could put up 100 on them. As long as they win the next 2 after that, he's fine. I would not be fine if my team lost 103-10. Would you? I wouldn't. How are you going to play well in your next 2 games if you lose 103-10? That's why it's such a terribly, terribly worded statement. Now, let's get on to the game. CJ Carr has been a freshman phenom for this Notre Dame team. Notre Dame, as good as they are running the football, guys, they are just as good passing the ball this year. Carr has nearly 2,300 yards through the air in 9 games, 19 touchdowns to 4 picks. They will not have Billy Schrauth again up front this week at left guard. It'll be Sullivan Absher starting at left guard with Joe Otting at center. Notre Dame averages 466 total yards of offense per game. Good luck. Jeremiah Love on the ground, 988 yards, 12 yards shy of 1,000. He actually had his best run of the season last Saturday. I don't know if you guys saw it, where he kind of twisted over the defender. He was not actually tackled. His tush landed on the defender's back. He got back up. He basically spun around, got up, and ran for a touchdown. That's why you're taught to finish tackles, make smart, high IQ plays. And as a runner, you're always taught continue to run because you never know what could happen. You keep moving till that whistle is blown. And that's exactly what Jeremiah Love did, scoring his 13th touchdown of the season. And what I mentioned before, the reason why I had him there as my, non-quarterback Heisman candidate is because of not just what he does on the ground, but what he does through the air in the receiving game. He has 3 receiving touchdowns and over 250 yards there. So he has 16 total touchdowns through 9 games. He is almost averaging 2 touchdowns per game. He has scored in every game since the Miami loss. And you look at Jadarian Price, another guy averaging 6 yards a clip. How are you going to stop him if you're Pittsburgh? 6 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns, 568 yards. And people are like, oh, maybe it gets easier with the receivers. It doesn't. Will Pauling, the transfer from Wisconsin, has been great. Awesome red zone threat, 5 scores. Eli Raridon is a huge tight end over the middle of the field. And then you got Malachi Fields, who brings you size. Jordan Faison, who brings you intermediate route depth. That is very, very deep at the receiving court. And we did not even talk about Jaden Greathouse. The biggest concern for Notre Dame, though, is the kicking game. This can catch up to them a little bit. If you guys noticed the last couple of weeks, Notre Dame has had slow starts, right, where they're sort of playing down to their opponent, and then they flourish in the second quarter onward. The first quarter has been a little bit rough for us against teams like Navy and Boston College. It'll likely be Eric Schmidt again kicking this week. And the one big improvement, why Notre Dame has been able to string off 7 wins in a row, is because of their defense, right? The defense has not allowed more than 13 points in 5 of their last 6 games. No more than 13 in 5 of their last 6. That is outstanding. You have an awesome backer in Drake Bowen, captain. Don Schuler is really good, stopping runs at the line, dropping back into coverage. Kingston Viamu-Asa has been another really good player. And then Boubacar Traore leads the team with 6.5 sacks. And people forget, too, we've been without Gabe Rubio and Donovan Heinisch for a majority of the season. So this guy has really stepped up into a new role and has taken over as the teeth of that interior. Leonard Moore probably going up against their number 1 and Kenny Johnson or Raphael Williams. And then Christian Gray is the one Achilles heel. But, he's got some game to him, too. Teams like to pick on him, sure. But he also makes plays, right? He's kind of like that one player. He'll get called for 3 flags a game, give up 150 yards receiving, but then he'll turn around and have a pick and a forced fumble. That's the type of player that he is. And for Pittsburgh, quickly, they're coming off a bye week. They beat Stanford 35-20. They passed the ball really well. You have to give them a lot of respect. Mason Heinchel came in and just took the job away from Eli Holstein this season. This kid is really, really good. He's from Lima, Ohio. Awesome high school quarterback. The one red flag with him is he's gotten sacked a bit too much since taking over. That offensive line has some limitations, in my opinion. Running the football, look out for Jakarian Turner. And then receiver-wise, they're good. They have 4 guys with at least 4 touchdowns. I talked about Johnson and Williams, but the one guy who's the X factor is Katarius Hicks. This guy had a really good game last week and 2 weeks ago. Look for him over the middle of the field. Defensively, I just don't think Pittsburgh will be able to slow down Notre Dame's offense. So ultimately, I'm probably going to be nice here and pick Notre Dame by 7 to 10 points. I don't think they cover the spread, although the spread has been up to 11.5. Irish win. I don't want to say they roll, but they definitely win this football game. They are the more fundamentally sound football team, and Marcus Freeman has a winning mentality. Pat Narduzzi, on the other hand, has a losing mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw that quote, and I'm like, that's what you say to, like, what do your players think? Like, don't you want to set a standard of, every game should matter? Like, I don't want to take a play off. Like, 3 losses, you're not guaranteed anything. And then you get smacked around in this game, all your confidence goes away, and you lose those 2 ACC games. So who knows? Noah, your thoughts on this? I mean, we've talked about some dumb shit that coaches have said this year. This is right up there with them, in my opinion. And I don't think, I didn't think Pittsburgh was going to win anyway, but this certainly doesn't help.
A couple things with this, speaking of dumb statements, I will say this. I understand what he was trying to say in that because this is an out of conference game, it is inherently less important to their CFP odds than the conference games. That is true. However, the way he said it just had to be the absolute worst possible way. So you're saying if you lose this game like 100-3 or whatever, you don't think that's going to tank your ranking? You don't think the polls will see that? You don't think that's going to tank your team's confidence? Oh, and by the way, guys, those 2 ACC teams, they play to close the season. Oh, just on the road at Georgia Tech and versus Miami. Definitely easy games by any means come on. You have 3 must-win games the rest of your season, all against teams ranked in the top 16. And you come out and say some shit like that? How do you think that looks? I mean, obviously in the media it looks terrible, but you think that inspires confidence in your team to say something like that leading up to a game like this? I thought it was an absolutely terrible look. I got to be honest. I think Tom was too nice. I think Notre Dame will roll in this game because this Pittsburgh team is going to lose confidence from that statement. And you know what? I think that's also bulletin board material for a guy like Marcus Freeman that, let's be honest, that statement kind of looks past Notre Dame. It kind of makes it view that Pittsburgh views this game as unimportant or whatever. Notre Dame knows how important this game is. They need to win out pretty much to make the college football playoff because they don't have a conference championship game to help them get in. They have to get in on regular season merit. And I think with this Pittsburgh team, they are a good team. However, I think they have some flaws. Now, the key factor for me in this game, guys, is this Notre Dame defense going up against the Pittsburgh O, because like Tom said, the Notre Dame defense has done much better lately. However, if they do have a weakness this season, it's been the passing game. And Pittsburgh's strength is in the passing game as well. They're not really a team that's going to run it all over you. They're going to have to pass it through the air. So I think that's where Notre Dame's defense will have to key in on. But on the other side, and Tom already touched on this, I do not think this Pittsburgh defense is going to – they are better against the run, which, against a team like Notre Dame is very important. But CJ Carr is no slouch, man. He's been very good this season. And in my opinion, I believe CJ Carr and this passing attack will be the reason the Irish not only win this game, they will win this game by 17 points. And Pittsburgh, they will plummet in the rankings, and they won't even win those last 2 games either. It's only going to get worse from here.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you guys. I think Notre Dame wins this one. I just think it's wild to say that coming down the stretch. You have 3 games left. We've seen how the committee has viewed these teams that have gotten their asses kicked, even if it's only their first or their second loss, let alone their third. If for example, if my team has 3 losses, if Illinois didn't get beat by 53 by Indiana, even if they got beat, but, it was a respectable game, you could make an argument they probably would find themselves in the late 20s, 20 to 25 ranking. I'd kill to be in that position. And you got this. I mean, it's literally the difference between a serious program like Notre Dame and a serious head coach in Marcus Freeman and an unserious football program and an unserious head coach in Pittsburgh. If the head coach doesn't care, why the fuck should anybody else? It's just wild. One of the craziest things I've ever heard before a football game. Let's go to the Big 12. Arizona is going to number 25, Cincinnati. This is also a nooner. This one on FS1. Noah, we'll start with you. A little one that might be flying under the radar in the Big 12 that has a couple high-powered offenses, 2 really good quarterbacks, and Sorsby and Noah Fafita could be a fun one.
This will be a fun one, guys. And I got to say this. I think this might be a potential upset alert, in my opinion, because I'm going to be honest, guys, from what I've seen from the Cincy defense so far this season, I'm not the most sold, guys. I'm looking at their rankings right now. They're 74th against the pass, which against an offense with a guy like Noah Fafita, who is an excellent quarterback, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to cut it. They're also 86th against the rush. This is very much one of those bend but don't break defenses, guys. But on the other side, I was actually really surprised when I read this. Arizona is 7th against the pass, which, a guy like Brendan Sorsby, he's definitely been one of the upper level quarterbacks this season. I think that'll be a big advantage. To me, this game will be decided by if this Arizona defense can contain the Cincinnati rushing attack, because that is really what this offense is built around, right? Running the football, helping to establish play action, all that good old-fashioned football type of stuff. But I don't know, man. Like I said, I just have not been that impressed by the Cincy defense at times this season. They're good scoring-wise, but they give up a ton of yards. And I think against an offense like Arizona with a quarterback like Fafita, who's a superstar in my opinion, this is a tough one to call, guys, but I'm going to be honest. I'm going with the upset. I'm picking Arizona to win this game outright. I do think it'll be close, especially on the road, but I think Noah Fafita will do just enough to get a big upset win for Arizona, and they will end Cincinnati's college football playoff hopes for good.
That would be a big one, marching up to Nippert Stadium in Cincy and getting a win. Tom, do you agree with Noah, or do you like the home team?
Well, when you analyze Arizona's 3 losses, it's to Iowa State, BYU, and Houston. All good, respectable programs. So Fafita, he's done a good job this year. He's improved throughout the course of the season. He got good chemistry with his receivers. And the Wildcats defense, they're a force to be reckoned with. They forced 18 turnovers this season compared to Cincy's defense that has forced only 2 picks. There's a huge discrepancy there. I think Arizona's defense is actually better than Cincinnati's right now, which is shocking because in the past we've seen, guys like Marcus Freeman, Luke Fickell, Brian Kelly, all these guys that have been coaches at Cincinnati over the years really succeed. I think Scott Satterfield's team will be tested in this game. But the difference for me, guys, is Brendan Sorsby. He has totaled 29 touchdowns in 9 games, 21 passing, 8 rushing. He is a dual threat, just 2 interceptions on the season. Brendan Sorsby, if he was like in the Big Ten, or if like he was in the position that Mendoza was in, and this is no knock on Mendoza at all, I think Sorsby would be in the Heisman conversation. Basically, what I'm saying is I think Sorsby could do what Mendoza is doing at Indiana right now, and that's why I'm going to pick Cincinnati in this one.
That's funny because Sorsby was a one-time Indiana quarterback. He should have just stayed with the Hoosiers and not transferred to Cincy. He could be Mendoza right now. Noah talked me into Arizona. They have a top 20 defense as far as yards allowed on the season. 18 turnovers, like you said, Tom. Cincinnati is favored by 6.5. But give me the Wildcats. Let's get nuts. You want to get nuts? Let's get fucking nuts. All right. We're going to go to the SEC. Number 11, Oklahoma, is going to Tuscaloosa to take on number 4, Alabama. This one's 3:30 on ABC. A big one with some seeding implications here for the college football playoff. Alabama obviously wants to keep pace with Georgia and Texas A&M at the top of the conference. Oklahoma looking to keep themselves alive in the college football playoff race. Noah, you're our SEC guy, so we'll start here with you. Do Mateer and the Sooners have enough to take out Simpson and the Crimson Tide?
No. And here's why. Oh, man. I knew you would like that one, Andy. But
no.
I don't obviously I would love to be wrong in this one, but I don't think so, and here's why. This is the biggest game of the season that's left for both of these teams. I mean, for Oklahoma, it's pretty much do or die. If they lose this game, they are probably out of the CFP race entirely. It's on the road as well, which is always tough. I will say this about Oklahoma. I do have more faith in their defense than Alabama. Not that I think Alabama's defense is bad. Not at all. The defense is very good. I just think Oklahoma's defense this season has been elite. I mean, they're seventh for yards against in the entire country. Where I have problems with Oklahoma, and you mentioned John Mateer, Andy, I have so many question marks about what I've seen from this offense at points. At some points, they've looked amazing. At other points, they just look totally lost. And on the other side, we mentioned this earlier in the Heisman segment. This Alabama offense under Ty Simpson, guys, has just been clinical all year long. They take care of the football. We mentioned his touchdown interception ratio earlier in the show. They can't exactly run the football well, but I mean, when Simpson is slinging it around as efficiently as he has this season, they've been able to kind of match that. So, in my opinion, this is a game where the Oklahoma defense is going to have to try and keep them in the game. And on the other side, John Mateer on this offense, they cannot have any more of this inconsistent bullcrap, man. I mean, we've been talking about how talented he's been all season, and I know he got an injury, guys, but if you look at his stats, 8 passing touchdowns versus 7 interceptions. I had no idea his ratio was that, close to being 1-to-1 pretty much. So I think it's kind of a sign of how inconsistent this offense has been. Neither team is exactly what I would call amazing running the football. So then I think it comes down to the quarterback battle. And in the quarterback battle, I think you got to give a decisive edge to Ty Simpson, especially at home, to get this one done. So spread 5.5. I'm going to pick Alabama to cover that. I think they're going to win by like 7-10. I don't think it'll be a blowout because Oklahoma's defense is too good. But I have so many question marks about this Oklahoma offense. So give me the Tide.
I will take Alabama as well. I have a lot of question marks personally about the Oklahoma offense. Can he take care of the ball? It's already a tough place to play at Bryant-Denny. Let the defense force a turnover and the crowd get involved. Could be a long night for Oklahoma. I do think that their defense might be able to keep them in it, but I don't have a lot of faith. Give me the Tide in this one. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, quickly here. Tide are 6-0 in the SEC, coming off an 11-point win against LSU. The offense is fantastic. Noah was saying it. They average over 400 yards per game. Simpson, they do a lot more through the air than they do on the ground. Sometimes they get a little jammed up, if you know what I'm saying. Jam Miller hasn't been able to produce at a rate that they would like, averaging under 4 yards per carry and only 2 scores. So I think for the Sooners, you definitely want to be able to stop the run because then you could do what they do best, which is pressure the quarterback. The Sooners have 33 sacks. That ranks 4th in the NCAA, a stat that not a lot of people are talking about. R. Mason Thomas leads the pack with 6.5, and then you got linebacker Owen Heineke, who has been awesome as well. So I'm looking at this game, and I think it's really going to come down to Alabama's defense against Oklahoma's offense, because Alabama's defense has a plus. Alabama's a team, guys, is a plus 10 turnover ratio, and a lot of that is because of their defense, right? You have Justin Jefferson, LT Overton, Jan Zapier, Bray Hubbard. I think it's just too much. However, I will say this. Oklahoma won 24-3 against Alabama in Norman last year. Mm-hmm. Alabama has never beaten Oklahoma inside the state of Alabama.
Oh.
Fun fact. There's a first time for everything, though, and it changes here. We get the clean sweep. You know what that means. Hammer the Sooners.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, Tide fans. Go ahead and just take Oklahoma. That's an interesting stat. I did not know that. That's a fun one. Let's go back to the Big Ten, or go to the Big Ten. I don't know if we haven't hit the Big Ten yet, so we're going to the Big Ten. Going. So we have Ohio. No, God, I can't fucking read. Iowa. Iowa and Ohio State. Yeah, it really sounds the same. Andy, God damn it. The Iowa Hawkeyes, number 21. And I believe number 23 in the poll now in the CFP standings. They're 6-3, 4-2 in Big Ten play. They're going to Los Angeles to take on the USC Trojans, who still are alive in the Big Ten title race. They are like Oregon. They have one loss, so they're going to need some of the guys ahead of them to stumble, but they are playing for a spot in the playoff themselves. You have a big-time offense for USC with Jaden Mayava, Makai Lemon, and going up against the opposite, not a very big-time offense for Iowa, but they're anchored by their defense, as they have been. Noah was talking about them earlier. They always talk about defense traveling. Will it be able to in this game? Can they slow down USC? They did it against Oregon, but this is calling for 63 degrees, maybe some rain in the forecast again for Los Angeles on Saturday. So I think Iowa would like to keep it ugly and keep it as messy as possible. Tom, we'll start here. The Trojans or the Hawkeyes?
Yeah. I mean, USC averages 500 yards of offense per game, and Mayava is a big reason for that. He's good through the air. He's solid on the ground, too. He produces touchdowns, works well with Lincoln Riley. You know, King Miller and Waymon Jordan are both threats on the ground. And Makai Lemon, third in the nation with 937 receiving yards, 7 scores. I also like Jacoby Lane a lot. I think he's a really good complementary piece. And then Lake McCree, tight end, getting more involved as the season progresses. And then on defense, you got to worry about Bishop Fitzgerald. 5 picks on the year. That leads the team. Cameron Crawford and Braylon Shelby, each with 3.5 sacks. But here's the thing with Iowa. Yeah, a 2-point loss to Oregon. A little bit too close for comfort. And in their 3 losses this year, the Hawkeyes have not lost any of their 3 games by more than 5 points. Last I checked, the spread was 6.5. Andy, make sure in SGA you hammer Iowa plus 6.5, because this against the spread will hit in this game. It is going to be close. It is going to be ugly. Gradowski and Iowa, what they need to do is to keep USC's offense off the field. That is the game plan. Smash mouth, run it through your mouth. Defensively, Levelin, Graves, and Herkett each need to get to the quarterback. I want to see Zach Lutmer play well. He's going to get a tough matchup. Him and Deshaun Lee going up against guys like Lemon and Lane. I do not think this game is going to go how people think it is going to go. Iowa will win outright.
Hawkeyes on the road, a big one in the Coliseum. Looks like it's going to be 60 to 63 degrees and an 81% chance of rain at the time of kickoff. So we will see how that goes. Noah, do the Trojans defend their home turf, or does Iowa come in and show them real Big Ten football?
I think this will definitely be a Big Ten football type of game, guys. I think this is going to be. It's weird to say this with an offense like USC, right? But I think this is going to be a defensive slugfest. You got 2 top 5 units. Yeah, but I believe it's the number 4 offense in USC going against the number 5 defense in Iowa. However, actually, I'm more interested in the opposing matchup, which is what is this Iowa defense going to do against the Iowa offense against the USC defense that is not elite, but they're not terrible like you might expect a Lincoln Riley defense to typically be. They're actually top 50 both in yardage against and points against. So I'm very interested to see what happens there. As for who I think is going to win this game, I hate to say it because it would be nice to see Iowa get a result. I just have absolutely no faith in this Iowa offense to do anything even remotely in this game. They're one of those offenses, guys. They filter through the running backs. But so what that means is USC can basically just put, I wouldn't even say 8 men in the box, guys. Put all 11 guys in the box. Stop this running game. Derek Gronowski in this passing offense, which has been, I'll admit, it's better than the past few years of Iowa passing offenses. That is not saying anything whatsoever. It is still a bottom 10 unit pretty much passing wise. And while Maava and that USC offense, I think they will be contained by this Iowa defense, I would have way more faith in them to put up points than that opposing matchup, man. So give me USC to win this game. I don't know, something like, I don't know, like 14-7.
14-7 win for the Trojans. Maava has more than doubled up Mark Gronowski as far as passing yards. Gronowski with 1,000, I believe, 1,056. No, 1,084 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions on the year. It's week 12. Maava, 2,614 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This is a tough game, and I really do feel like it's one that nobody's expecting Iowa to win, but it's a game that they're going to. Give me the Hawkeyes in this one. I'll be with Tom. It's something, I don't know. Something just feels off about this one. So let's go. We've got a couple left, and this is going to be a big one I'm excited to hear Noah's take on. Number 10, Texas, going to Athens, taking on number 5, Georgia, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Texas has not been in the SEC very long, Noah, but it feels like they have already had several matchups with your Bulldogs.
Right.
How do you see this one shaking out? You guys are at home, slight edge there. I'm sure you are ready to watch the Dogs defense get after Arch Manning.
Well, let's see. How do I see this one shaking out? Last year, I saw a UJ team that, in my opinion, was worse than this year's team play Texas twice. And what happened in both those games? That's right. Texas lost both of them. And this one is at Athens, guys, which let's be honest, guys, unless it's Alabama, Athens is really tough place for a team to come in and get a result. And that would be if Texas was firing all cylinders. But we've seen this season, Texas has had some survivor results. They've had some bad losses. They've had some inconsistency. They cannot run the football whatsoever this season. So it's going to come down to Arch Manning. Now, I will say this. Georgia's defense is far more vulnerable against the pass than against the run. They're really good against the run this season, at giving up just barely over 100 yards per game. But they can be beaten through the passing because their pass rush has really not been that good whatsoever this season. Definitely much worse than you would typically expect from them. So I think this is going to come down to the Georgia offense going out there and winning this game for this one. Now, there's an interesting matchup here. Georgia is a team that you usually associate with running the football, right? However, Texas has the second strongest rushing defense in the entire country. So in my opinion, I mentioned him earlier, I believe this game will be decided by Gunnar Stockton. Remember what happened last season, guys? He came in late into the season for Carson Beck. And he kind of turned that team's momentum around. He was a big reason they actually beat Texas in the SEC championship game in that second half. He's going to have to do a lot in this game. He's going to have to, use some of that mobility, make plays through the air, because I'm not sure how much they're going to be able to do on the ground. However, I still say, even though I don't think this Georgia team is as strong as some of the ones in the past, I would still say I have much less question marks about them than I do with this Texas team. And plus, Georgia is at home. Give me the Dogs by 10. They will cover the spread, and they will get a big win for their SEC championship hopes.
Dogs with a big win. They need it. I guess, well, they don't need it, but it would be very helpful if they have it. Texas needs it. They need a statement win. They've won 4 in a row, but their last 3 games have all been decided by one score. They beat Vanderbilt 34-31, Mississippi State 45-38 in overtime, and Kentucky 16-13 in overtime. Both of those, I mean, it took them overtime to get past Mississippi State and Kentucky, and those were both on the road. I mean, what do you think is going to happen in Athens? They're not going to just march in to Georgia and do whatever they want. Give me the dogs in this one as well, effectively ending Texas's season, which we've said on the show already. But they are projected to be in the latest playoff projection. So this is a big one. Tommy, how do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, look, I mean, Georgia handed Texas 2 of their 3 losses last year prior to CFP elimination. So the Bulldogs have won 5 straight since losing to Bama. Stockton has looked great. 15 passing scores, 7 rushing. I like the combo of Frazier and Bowens on the ground. Zachariah Branch and Colby Young, London Humphreys, you name it. Good trio receivers. Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky, both good at different things. They bring different elements to that offense. And defensively, I mean, you got really good backers on this team. CJ Allen is a guy who has a knack for causing turnovers, getting to the quarterback. Raylan Wilson, I think he's a good run stuffer. We saw what he did earlier this year. And Dalen Everett is improving. I don't think Georgia's secondary is – I mean, Noah, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Georgia's secondary is elite by any means, but they're certainly no slouch. They are capable of making plays when they need to. And when I look at Texas – yeah, they had a bad loss against Florida, but they've ripped off 4 straight wins since losing in the swamp. Arch Manning has improved a lot throughout the course of the season. And I think part of his success now is the play calling has changed. Steve Sarkisian is adapting to Arch Manning's strengths more. I feel like in the beginning of the season, he was doing with Arch similar to what he did with Quinn Ewers. And I think that's what was setting Manning back a little bit. Now that the offense is tending to more of Arch Manning's strengths, you'll see better results on the football field, and we have been. They have the talent to do it. I mean, they got Ryan Wingo and Parker Livingstone, Jack Andrews, guys who can make catches, score touchdowns. The Longhorns defensively are a problem. They are tied second in the nation with 34 sacks, on top of their second-best run defense stat, as Noah mentioned. Anthony Hill Jr., good linebacker. Colin Simmons, 8 sacks. A few of their DBs have 2 picks apiece, so it's going to be a very, very tough game. Georgia wins, but Texas covers.
A tight one is the projection from Tommy. This might be the game of the week, fellas. I'll be really, really interested to see how Arch handles this tough environment, and if they are able to keep it close and hang with Gunner and the dogs. Let's do one more game here, and then we'll get out of here. So let's go TCU at number 12 BYU. This is a late one, folks. 10:15 Eastern time on ESPN. BYU looking to bounce back after the loss at Texas Tech. This one would be a big win for TCU. What are they at? 3 losses, 4 losses to this point. Tommy, we'll start with you. Do the Mormons get right against the Frogs?
No, they're coming off a tough loss against Texas Tech, so it's really tough to rebound like that, especially after a flat offensive performance. Bear Bachmeier struggled. The offense only scored 7 points. But I have confidence in them to bounce back here. BYU still averages 200 rushing yards per game this year, exactly that number. And Chase Roberts, Parker Kingston will both have better performances this week. I know Roberts scored last week, but it was late in the game. Defensively, I still like Jack Kelly with 7 sacks. But this TCU Horned Frogs team should not be overlooked. Josh Hoover, second year as the full-time starter for them. I think he's improved a lot. And then receiving-wise, they have some good players. Manjack the fourth, McAllister and Dwyer, all threats to score. Trent Battle is their red zone back. And then Kavorian Barnes is a guy who can take a top off of defense. So offensively, they have threats. Defensively, however, they force a lot of turnovers, but they are not great in other categories. They let teams move the ball down the field against them. That is your prototypical Big 12 defense, and it will not survive in that Mormon heat. Diet Cokes galore. BYU wins.
BYU is the pick from Tom. Noah, your thoughts on this late night Big 12 battle?
Well, Tom mentioned that big loss they had this week, and I got to say this, guys. Nothing more dangerous than a pack of Cougars with their backs against the wall, which is what we have in this game, man. After that big loss they had last week to Texas Tech, returning home, they're going to be motivated to get a big result. Now TCU has been decent this season, guys. They are 6-3. Their offense, they're actually ninth in the country passing the ball, which I did not know they were that good at passing the ball. So that's a definitely interesting thing to keep an eye on. But man, the main thing that sticks out to me, guys, is this TCU defense is really not that special. They're 72nd in scoring. They're 130 against the pass, which, to be fair, against a team like BYU, which centers on running the football, might not affect them as much as it would other teams. But I agree with Tom on this one. I don't think they have enough. And plus BYU, yes, you could say they might be demotivated after a loss like that. But personally, I see it as the opposite. Returning home, they're going to be motivated to put on a much better performance they did in that one, and I believe they will. I'm going to pick BYU to win this game. Spread is -4.5. I will pick BYU to cover that because BYU will win this game by 10 points.
A 10-point win for the Cougars with their backs against the wall. I wouldn't want to be in the same room. LJ Martin, I think, will play a big role in this game. Obviously, he was neutralized last week. I think only 35 yards on the ground, but he's got 824 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think they will feed him early and often. If TCU has a chance in this game, I think it's because Josh Hoover and Eric McAllister hook up. McAllister's at 834 yards and 8 scores through the air, so he has been one of the elite downfield threats in college football so far this year. He's going to have a big one if TCU wants to have a chance. Give me BYU, though. I think they defend their home field. I just think it's a very tough place to play. But I won't be surprised if TCU finds a way to win. They really have nothing to lose at this point. They're bowl eligible. They're 3-3 in conference play, so it's not like they're playing for a conference title. Kind of go out there and sling it and see what happens. But BYU is my pick. That's another sweep, so take TCU. That's our 6-pack, our 6 games we think you should be watching. Let's go ahead and lock this up. I'll get mine out of the way because I stink. Friday night, Louisville -3 against Clemson. I apologize now, Cardinal fans. Congratulations, Dabo. Tom, we'll go to you.
I'm going to take Clemson to cover that game since you said that. Well, since Andy can't properly nail this segment, I will. If we want to get smart, like Pat Narduzzi does, we might as well lock in an Irish blowout. As I stated earlier, I'm going to be nicer and put some respect for the opponent. Notre Dame beats Pittsburgh by at least 1 touchdown. So by at least 7 points, Notre Dame will beat Pittsburgh. Pat Narduzzi can put his diaper on, shit his pants, and worry about the next 2 weeks with a soon to be unranked Pittsburgh team.
Oh, man, adding insult to injury on that one. Noah, what have you got cooked up for us this week?
Well, guys, I got my eyes focused on the state of Alabama in this one, a game with massive, massive conference implications. You guys know what the game I'm talking about, of course. Of course, I'm talking about the Kennesaw State Owls and the Jacksonville State Cox, the Gamecocks, with a big home game in this one. They're actually 3.5-point underdogs because Kennesaw State, man, won like 1 game last season, is 7-2 this season. A big credit to them. By the way, fun fact, my sister's alma mater. Fun fact there. But the Owls fans will not be happy in this game because the Cox are ready to pound out a massive win in this one behind an amazing running back, Cam Cook. He's going to be cooking in this game, and he's had 4 straight 100-yard games. And poor Amari Odom, the Kennesaw State quarterback, no relation to Lamar Odom, I assume, but he's going to feel like he's on crack against this Cox defense in this one, man. Jacksonville State gets the win.
Bruh.
Just every week, he just does it again, folks. He surprises me, gets me every week. This guy is full, and he's taking the Cox to pound the Owls. I say that as my significant other is in the room and probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. But that is plenty. That is enough of us. This is the Tailgate Committee, week number 12. Never a dull moment when we're talking ball. With Tom Scavetta and Noah Divler. My name is Andy Hopper. We appreciate you, as always, for joining us. We remind you, Follow us on our socials. We are at the Tailgate Committee on Instagram and Facebook, and at the Tailgate Com on Twitter. And then please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. Share with a friend. Tell a friend. Tell 10 friends. That'd be nice. But yeah, Tailgate Committee Week 12. We're out of here. We'll see you next week.